Okay guys, welcome back. So here we go again. Now before we jump out of the raycast controller, I noticed a minor error. These next shot equals should actually mean is, not is the same as. So if you just change line 45 and line 59 and save the file, when we come back to the scene, these two errors will disappear. Theory. There we go. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to do is open up the AR camera and go to the gun. Okay, let's zoom into the gun because what we're going to do is we're going to add a child transform game object to the end. And that will be the location where we're going to spawn the particle system, like smoke effect, from the end when we make a shot. So we need to right click on the gun and create an empty game object, and then pan the camera around, and I need you to move it towards the end. So I'm using the X axis, you can also do that up here, to position the game object at the end of the gun, and then up a little bit to the tip of the gun. So I'm just going to go around to the front to make sure it's centered. Yep, that's pretty much spot on. Now, this is going to be the gun flash target. So that's what I'm going to call it, a gun flash target. Now, when it generates the particle system, that will become a clone particle system. And if we fire again, a second one will appear, and a third one will appear, and a fourth one will appear. So we're going to use code to loop through anything that's tagged as this object and delete that from the scene to keep the performance up. Now what we want to do next is add a particle system to be positioned at the end of the gun flash target. So right click on the gun flash target, come down to effects and click on particle system. Okay, so that's created a particle system. If we zoom out, we can actually see what that's done. So I wanted to show you how to do it this way rather than by just using the prefab again. Now what we're going to do is, while this particle system is selected, which I'll actually call gun flash smoke, that can be the name of this particle system, I want you to come down to the shape and click on the bar to expand this section. Then what I want you to do is rotate on the X 90, or minus 90, sorry, to make the particle system face upwards. Now we need to change the radius because the angle and the radius are far too great. So let's bring that in. There we go. And I want to change the scale of this axis, which is the Y. So let's bring that down. And the Z axis, let's bring that down as well. Okay, so now we're getting to about the right size. The next thing we need to do is change the settings up at the top. I want the start lifetime to just be half a second. And I want the start speed to just be 1. Okay, and then the duration to just be 1 as well. And I'm going to take off looping. Now when I play, we'll just have a puff of smoke. So let's knock down the duration even less. There we go. Okay, let's change the colour now to be a darker colour. And now what we're going to do is, just temporarily, I'm going to put looping back on and press play because I want you to switch to the game view. And we can see the effect of the smoke there. So now, because like I said, the camera's slightly different, we're going to play around a little bit in here. Now, if I increase the start speed to 2, that may look slightly better. And then I'm just going to knock down the lifetime to be 0.4 instead. Now, bear in mind, if this isn't looping, it will probably look better now. Let's have a look. Take looping off and play. Yeah, and that gives us kind of a puff of smoke. Now, it needs to be a little bit over the top in the editor because when we're using the AR experience, it won't stand out as much. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error, but for now, I think that's okay. Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to tag the particle system as gun smoke, like so. There we go. Now, the gun smoke will be tagged as gun smoke. And I want you to stop that and then drag the gun flash smoke into the resources folder, because what we're going to do is use this as a prefab. So whenever we press the fire button, we will get the gun flash target and we will open up the gun flash smoke prefab and load it into that position. Now, to make things easier, we're going to drag in the gun flash target into the script so that we can just assign the gun flash smoke as the child object rather than having to find the game object in the hierarchy. Okay guys, so what I want you to do next is save the scene and come back to the raycast script. Now what we're going to do is, when we take the shot, just for now, we're going to load in this gun flash smoke on top of the scene. So in the same way that we did before with the bird asset, we're going to do exactly the same thing, except we're going to load in this new particle system, so that when we press the button, we should see a puff of smoke appear at the end of the gun. So let's start by creating a new game object, and I'll just call this gun flash. Oh, not fun flash, although it could be. So gun flash, and we need to instantiate a new game object again from the resources folder. So let's jump into the resources folder and load in the correct object. Now, if you remember, this is case sensitive, so I just want to make sure I've got the typing correct. So I'm going to copy the name and paste that inside. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to say what type of object it is, which is obviously it's a game object. And we need to close the type off and close the load, and then set this as a new game object. Okay, so now what we need to do is position gun flash to appear in the correct area. And the area that we want it to appear in is at the end of the gun, which was the gun flash target, sorry. So gun flash will set the transform position to equal the gun flash target's position. Okay, now this won't work for now because we haven't dragged that object into the script yet, but we're about to correct that anyway. Okay, so let's jump back to the scene now and let's hook up this raycast script. So where is the raycast script? Inside image target raycast. There we go. And look, we have all these things to drag in. Now, on the canvas, the first thing is the object name, and that is the bird name. So let's drag in the object name. Then we need the gun flash target. Well, that's this here. In fact, let's remove gun flash smoke from the scene as we don't need it. Reselect raycast and then drag in the gun flash target. Now I'll take the clips out for a second because we're not using those. And now save the file. Now what should happen is when we press play, if I hold up the image once more, this time when I press, well, if I hook the button up, it will work. 1 second. So come back out in the 2D view and double click on the canvas fire button. Now what I want you to do is scroll down and we're going to come down to this on click area. Click the plus symbol and it basically says, on click, what do you want me to do? Well, I want you to access the raycast script. So I drop that in there. And then what function? Well, the function I want is from the raycast controller and the function is fire. Okay, so now the button is hooked up. Let's save the scene again and hold up my page and press play. And this time there won't be any sound, not yet, but when I press fire, in theory, we should see a puff of smoke. There we go. Okay, so we have smoke. It needs a little bit of work, but it's working. It's instantiating the prefab for the gun smoke, and it's in the correct location. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to work more with the actual information given back from the raycast, and we're going to add a few sound effects to this thing. So save the scene, and I'll see you in the next video.